Yeah, so chapter 8, thug life versus real life. He makes a point in regards to defining like the thug life versus real life and what many people perceive as almost, I guess, what's real and what's not, because a lot of it gets overly publicized and marketed in such a way that it looks cool. It looks like the cool thing to do, like almost like getting shot. Like, see when 50 got shot 9 times?
Yeah.
Like, that was glamorized. Like getting shot is the thing to do, but obviously it's not. Getting shot or stabbed isn't wavy for anyone. But he makes a point of saying on page 138, as we mature at various points in our life, our perspective on rap has to be adjusted to use it for our best interests. Now I'm going to ask, how much influence did rap have over you as you are coming up, and do you think its influence has become more intense or decreased in the following generations?
All right. Do you know what's crazy? P, I'll go first. So he made some good points actually in that chapter, and I'll touch back on him. But first, to answer your question, in the UK, because I wasn't, unlike a lot of like maybe yourselves and a lot of my peers around me at the time, when I was kind of maybe between like, I don't know, like 10 and 16, there was a lot of influence from the US, like a hell of a lot. Like, I liked Tupac, but I wasn't deep in the kind of deep in the American scene base. Like all my boys were like Nas, and they listen to Nas, Jay-Z, and Noriega, Capone, all these other artists. I weren't deep into all that. But then what happened was, obviously the emergence of like a garage sound happened, and I grew with that. That's almost where my first passionate love come from, because the reason being it was UK based. I knew these areas, they were touchable, they were on a tube line. What's noticeable now is, growing up, obviously our scene, our music scene's elevated and evolved, and you've got this kind of this drill slash grime and drill scenes. Drill predominantly coming from America, but UK I think personally taken up a notch. But what I see now, because the way their man rap here, and everything's ching and all this stuff, bruv, and it might just be the media really keeping a close eye on it and exposing it. Like, the way you'd deem it now, you'd think like the majority of the youth out there are just carrying something that can pierce a man's skin. And you obviously hear about a number of. I'm not a young boy anymore, so I don't know what's really going on down on the roadside, or whatever. But the way they speak, it's become so naturalized and normalized to someone to have someone got stabbed here, or this person, you got your team on you and all this. I was in Ealing the other day actually. And I stand outside a shop, and like a group of young boys, they were definitely teenagers, like high school teenagers. And they were just like, they were outside I think they were buying fireworks outside a fireworks shop. They were messing around. But one of them was like, I think there's messing around. One of them was like to his brethren, yo, Ching Mai, man, innit? Ching Mai. I didn't know it was serious or not. So I was looking, and then like I think they ended up joking on. But it's just like little things like that. And I think the emergence of this normalization from the lyrics you get, because it's so dominant in our world now on the YouTube and your certain creative spaces like your GRM dailies and all that, because it's so prominent. Every day is a new track and it's so big. It seems like it's becoming naturalized and normalized, and I think it is having an influence on the way people carry themselves. But like, he raises a good point. Christopher Freeman raises a good point in the book, in that like when the man them that are rapping and that started making some loot or some money, they were then rapping about either a brethren's or a former life, because now they're about the business. They're seeing as mullah. And who wants to be out on these cold streets, still involved in war when there's money to be made? And you actually to be fair, you're finding that with some of these grime artists as well. Like P, I'm a fan of like Trappo. Like obviously, like I don't know if he's still out here doing what he proclaims in the street, but he still raps about it. And the same with these other people. Do you know what I mean? So it's whether or not they're still glorifying the street life, and people are picking up. These kind of young youths are still thinking these guys out there doing that, or whether or not they're talking it and they're doing it. But I do think the music has an influence. I think the music has an influence, although me per se, it didn't have an influence for me, because I wasn't knee deep in the American music, the kind of rap and hip hop American music, which might have gone deep into the street life. That makes sense. I kind of come up when I was coming up, I loved the garage, which was just about spitting bars. Technically, who's most gifted? You didn't really get much substance in the way of bore up this man and all that kind of stuff. So it's more like the vibes. Like I still like the vibes in of that.
What about you, P?
Yeah, so like to answer, I mean, a part of your question, I think it's intensified, and I think it's intensified because of the accessibility. So obviously now, whether it's hip hop, grime, garage, whatever, what have you, is now available on not only on your TV screens, but on your computer screen, on your phone. So there's a lot more accessibility to it. So yes, I believe it's actually intensified. I don't think it's going anywhere anytime soon. I think it's here to stay. I mean, it's arguably one of the biggest industries, certainly in this country and probably the world. You know what I mean? Whether it's hip hop as a whole, not necessarily our scene here in the UK. I'm gonna say like as a whole and as an industry, it's definitely one of the most, well, certainly the biggest in the world anyway. I know there were certain parts of the book where I think you've kind of you've said it anyway. For me personally, and I like to believe obviously people of our age take rap for what it is. You know what I mean? It's not literal. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to go either acting out obviously some of the things that I've heard in terms of shooting someone or robbing someone or chinging someone or what have you. Is they're entertainers, and for me it's entertainment, although some of it is relatable, and obviously I'll get onto that as to us growing up, but we've matured. So for me, I take it for entertainment value. But as to what Mason was saying in terms of some of these things even perpetuate themselves, or some people kind of bringing out negative connotations as to what the scene kind of stands for. Me personally, I believe, I don't want to talk about movies any way, shape, or form, but I think people need to tell their story. And for example, if I came out, I'm 35 years of age, and if I came out as a rapper today and I don't want to hit the jackpot, but all of a sudden I was popping. I've got 20 years of experience that I need to talk about before. I mean, of course I can talk about the here and now, but I've got 20 years of experience that I need to enlighten people about, to give people a foundation as to who I am before you can, I don't know, you need to know who I am, you know, and obviously my past is a part of who I am. But as to me growing up, whether it was Nas, Jay-Z, Prodigy, I was running through a list of books that I feel I was running through a list of books that I've read in general, and I listed Jay-Z's Decoded, Prodigy's, I forget the name of the book, and they're the two books that I've literally just wrote down now as Mason was talking. Prodigy and Jay-Z. Well, those two individuals, Jay-Z, his book was about obviously his lyrics, very similar to Wretch's book that's come out, that's got a lot of good acclaim as to how deep it is, and obviously how, you know, him going into his lyrics and obviously why he said certain things. That's what Jay-Z's book was about. Prodigy's book, and as I was actually writing that down today as to the books I've read, that's arguably one of the best books I've read, full stop, as to you actually understand fully who he is and why he was. Because a lot of people actually looked up to Prodigy, but although we looked up to him, you can never really understand obviously why the way he was, despite obviously listening to, in fact, no, you knew by listening to his music, by reading his book, you got insight into his past, and you understood the story, and you knew why the way he was. And again, as to the scene itself, if I'm 15, 16 years of age, not for everybody, but for some of it, it's relatable, because they're telling stories and saying things which you actually understand, and you at that time might not have any role models. Hence, those people on those big screens or on those screens are going to be individuals who you look up to. Of course, it's incumbent on them to be good. There's a part of me that says incumbent. I'm not too sure if it's their responsibility to be. No, they should be good role models. They should be good role models, knowing that other people are watching and listening. But there's a part of me that says they are responsible, and there's a part of me that says they're not responsible. You know, but again, just touching on one or two other bits and pieces. They taught us stuff as to Nas, as to history. There's certain things that I didn't know before Nas said them. Again, obviously behaviors, things taking place. We understood them because some of these stuff we were seeing. And of course, as to 2020, we aspired to a lot of the things they went on to achieve. But in the here and now, in let's say 2000, early 2000s, a lot of them were getting good record deals, all that type of stuff. And like, oh, this person got this deal, boom, 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 and we loved it.
So did any of this, see when you was listening to any of these guys, yeah? like the rappers and that, when we was like year 7, year 8, year 9, whatever, did any of it have an influence on the way you moved or the way you tried to go out and make money out here when you were younger?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I mean, not that I can't take myself.
Wait, I don't even know. Let's say you name 3 to 5 artists or maybe more, yeah, that were like rap hip hop, and they might have said some things about getting money this way or that way. Maybe they've changed the lyrics, but that was their like their essence back in the day, yeah. If you didn't hear, if you were listening to jazz, I don't know, like classical, would you have had like, would it change the way you kind of came up mentality wise and trying to get money at a young age before you could even like work a job, if that makes sense?
No, in regards to like jazz and stuff, I don't think it would have made a difference, because what I understand, certainly working in schools, is you're talking about environment. So if all you're seeing in your environment is, I don't want to say predominantly negative stuff, but if you're seeing negative stuff, if you're then hearing someone who's on the big screen then rapping and putting it in a way that is gripping. I'm not going to say entertaining. That is gripping. You're feeling that. You feel that. You understand. You're emotionally drawn to that. You understand exactly what he's talking about. So that's the jazz and all that, or another genre of music. No, but like, did it influence me as to some of the things I was doing? Like, I laugh. Like, there was rappers talking about Kane, and I used to think, who's Kane? Like, no. I swear, I'm like, who's Kane? I used to think, but for the longest, I was thinking, who's Kane? Like, obviously, fast forward, obviously, I knew they were talking about cocaine, but no, did I want to be a shot? Nah, but I always knew personally that wasn't. I mean, we can go into it. Obviously, I think there's parts of the book where they talk about that type of stuff, but that was never ever my lane, and I never ever really wanted to get into stuff like, you know what I mean, selling drugs. That was just far too a murky game for my liking, you know what I'm saying? And I feel once you kind of cross that line, then there are no rules. You know what I mean? As these dudes are now talking about robbing the plug and all that type of stuff, you know what I mean? Like, there clearly ain't no rules.
Yeah. Do you know what? Slightly off topic, but one of the deepest, I wasn't big on the American rap scene, but one of the deepest tunes, and I can't remember who it was by, yeah, but it was like, it started off like, life is the interlude to death, son. The saga begins. I'm the reflection.
Yeah, cool, mega.
That tune, that you talk about painting a vivid picture. And if someone else is talking about shooting up a man or selling drugs and they're painting that vivid picture, because I saw that whole picture, that song there was, I could put that on repeat, bruv. So
yeah,
you know the tune, French?
Of course, come on, man.
Yeah, oh my gosh. My goodness. Is it called The Saga or something?
Yeah, say it again.
The Saga, is that what it's called?
Yeah, that's not that, but yeah, I don't know if the tunes that, but his the album or the mixtape.
The whole album.
The whole fire. That's one of the best albums, like hip hop albums. Yeah, that was yeah. Good question.
Do you have a perspective on that, French?
Yeah, no, of course, man. Yeah, I was definitely influenced by rap, but do you know what it was? I've always had music being like, my mum and dad played music from early. Like, I've grown up in a musical house, so I've always had different music. And I think one of my first memories of like rap music in particular is like Slick Rick. Like, I remember my dad used to bump Slick Rick and that. And I remember, like, see, if anyone doesn't know about Slick Rick, like, he's one of the first original storytellers in rap. Like, he used to tell stories and you could picture what he's saying. Like, so I remember like being young, like my dad used to drive me to like football practice and he'd be bumping Slick Rick. And he would have that tune, Children's Story. And I used to love that song. Like, I used to play it and I could like just listen to him. I could picture everything he's saying about that particular song. He's talking about a youth, that him and his brethren going out on eats, basically, going robbing techs, robbing handbags and all that stuff. And then they go too far. Then one of them does a mad thing, and then he's getting chased by the Jakes, and he busts his shots at the Jakes. But because Rick, like the way he puts it forward, I could see it in my head. Like, I could literally see what he's saying. But at the same time, being so young as well, but also having the knowledge that this isn't a real thing. This is a story. It's the song's called A Children's Story or something like that. Mm-hmm. So I was always aware that, yes, it's entertainment, but it's such a thin line because some of it's real. So like, from my personal experience, like the way I come up in, as P said rightly, it's your environment. So I come up in an environment where that, like everything that like man's talking about in the rap was on my doorstep. Like I saw it. I come out of my house and I walk out the road 5 minutes and I'll be seeing crackheads and I'll be seeing like drunks and I'll be seeing like man's elders serving and do you know what I mean? Like see when what's his name? George.
Yeah.
See when he's talking about like all the man them ripping like kettles and that. That was like that was like one of my god brothers, like that was all of his team. Like that was all of them man there. And I used to like me, like, obviously us being I was probably about 8, 9, 10, watching these lot coming back to the ends like with kettles and like buying off, like, do you know what I'm saying? Like they're always 16, 17, but they're coming back like drippy then. Like there was like Moschino and Iceberg days and like the Versace belt. So I was seeing that as normal. Like that was normal. I wasn't really, the music wasn't really influencing me in that regard. I was just seeing it anyway. So yes, on one hand, I was definitely influenced by the rap, but the funny thing is, like obviously man started getting into like the drug game or whatnot. And man used to, like, as Pete was rightly said, like man would be like, they would say things like Kane and Novocaine and all them things there. Bro, man didn't know what that was until man got into the game. And when man started doing man's thing, man was like, oh shit, that's what man's talking about. Man talking about a triple beam and a bounce and whatnot. It's like, yeah, man's doing that. Man's really active. Man's really going hand to hand and doing it. So when you're listening back to certain lyrics, you're like, okay, that's what he's talking. I didn't even know what he was talking. It just sounded dope though. It sounded fly what he's talking about. But now man's really in it, involved in it. I'm actually understanding more of what he's saying. So I was definitely influenced, and I think fast forward a bit, like after being on the roads and that, certain albums for me, like one of my favorite albums till this day, probably is my favorite album, is Jay-Z's Reasonable Doubt. Like that used to get me pumped, like to be on the block, like just hustling, like just really. And the thing is, I don't want it to sound like it was a case of he made man go out and do it, because he tells a cautionary tale as well. It's not like he's saying it's all glamorous. Like it's like, bro, like in that song, there's a particular song he talks about called The Evils, like spelled devils, but the evils. But he talks about the first line, he's like, basically, me and my friends don't talk no more because we're all getting money. So it's best that we don't talk, because if you're seeing another man's digits, it can get sticky. And that's how it gets on the roads. Like we all come up together, but then when man started making some kind of money, you start splintering off into your little groups, your little crews. Like we all come up together like 30, 40 man deep, then you'll start going like, these 5 man go over there, that 5 man go over there. And you start to see what's going on. It's like, oh shit, like what he's saying is real. Like this is taking place as man's doing it. So it definitely had an influence. But at the same time, I was always aware that not everything being said is real, because as I said, I was into music from young. So I was having that education that there is storytellers within the rap and there is some realism within the rap. But then when you stop, for me personally, when you actually get involved in certain things, then you listen back to certain man's lyrics, you're like, nah, he's gassing. Like he's just chatting. He's just waffling. Like, you're not bruv. You're not busting off your thing and dupping, man, the way you're talking like that. You may have done your thing. You may have been on the road. You may have even bust your gun a couple of times. But the way man was talking, like they was catching bodies weekly. It's like, nah, bro, like you're not doing that. And obviously, when you start getting into weight, you're like, okay, like man's moving that kind of weight now. So like, it's not a big deal. So it's not as glamorized when you're actually involved in it. But coming up, being young, like you're I was definitely subconsciously influenced by it in ways that I probably wouldn't recognize until I got a bit older and actually was involved in certain things. So I think, yeah, I was definitely influenced by rap to an extent, but more so, I would say more so my environment, because before I knew about certain things from rap music, I was already seeing it. I was already involved in certain things, like just little dumb shit, but I was already halfway in there. And in regards to if it's more intense, I think it is more intense now. I think because MP, I think you both made a point of that nowadays it's more out there. It's more of a everyone listen to it. So I remember like even like when I was knee deep in it, like everyone used to dress like how we dress, but not everyone was on the roads. So I was like, I remember making a point to one of my bridges one time. I was like, right, it's like everyone's got this uniform, like the shotter's uniform or something, but man ain't shotters, like man ain't on the roads like that, but you look like you are. So it's easy to fool. You can easily blend in and look like you're part of what's going on, but you're not really part of it. So that's part of the influence as well. That's part of the culture and the way we dress. Like look at even today. Like you see a bag of you probably from little villages that are in Air Forces, night tracksuits, got a man bag. Bruv, they are far from on the roads, but they look like it though. Do you know what I'm saying? They've got the uniform, so it looks like they're part of the action. But do you know what I'm saying? It's definitely not the case of they're trapping or doing whatever they a lot of these rappers talk about. So I think it's become more intense in terms of it's more like like trap, for instance. Like they're talking one bag of grease and trap, but they're making money from it. It's more mainstream now. So that's more that in itself is more tense because the more traction they're getting and the more grease that they think that they can talk and still get sales and still it's gonna get more intense naturally. So that's just part and parcel of the cycle. And I don't want to say unfortunately, because rightly so, as P was saying, a lot of these youths that are coming up in rapping, like they've been on the road, so they're just talking about their experiences that they've had, which is fine. That's normal. Like if you've been on the road, by all means talk about it. Not to say you have to endorse it, but I think it should be a case of, all right, cool, but talk about the negative sides of it as well, because it's not all glamorous. It really isn't. It's really not all glamorous. So if you're gonna make a message and say, yeah, I've been on the roads, I've done this, I've done that, all right, cool, but talk about some of the bad times as well, because there are kids listening, there are younger people listening, and they are influenced, as we just spoke about being influenced by the rappers. But not everyone has the education of knowing that part of it is real and part of it is fake. Do you know what I'm saying? I was watching something on Netflix actually, on David Letterman. Jay-Z was talking on the interview, and David Letterman asked him, he's like, he asked him a question. He said, is there a large percentage of rap biographical? And Jay-Z started laughing like, nah, it's not. It's basically a lot of it's fake. Like a lot of people are overselling it. Do you know what I'm saying? Like a lot of these rappers aren't doing everything that they're talking about, but it's a big portion of it is entertainment. But it's knowing the thin line between one and the two, because it's so hard to distinguish. Because on one line, you may say some mad fly shit that sounds cool, but in the next line, you may drop in a gem that's really happened in your life. But how do you distinguish the two between you're talking about some big wheelie shit that you may have like, I can't think of a lyric, but certain obviously rappers are very creative with what they say and they make it sound mad, fly and flashy, but that's not obviously the whole truth, but there is part truth to what they're saying. So you have to be smart enough to know which is real and which isn't. And unfortunately, not all of us, even up till today, I think there's people in our age group that probably still can't distinguish between what's real and what's not. So it's going to be even more tough of a situation for the younger generation to be like, he's just talking about it in an entertainment way, and he's talking about it biographical. So like, see how you're saying about Cormega, like how he painted a picture. Obviously, Cormega's a rapper that's really been in it. He's really done it. So he can paint such a picture and make it so vivid because he really was doing it. But then at the same time, I'm sure that there's bars and songs that he's made that not everything is 100% authentic or real in terms of everything he's saying. So yeah, I guess it's again, just to reiterate, it's hard to distinguish always what's real and what's not. But go on.
So I know you're about to move on.
God.
That's the reason why, like, in this moment in time, obviously, we're speaking about music is really accessible, but now we have a lot of videos, we have documentaries. You're talking about the David Letterman and the Jay-Z. David Letterman, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't watched it. I have seen it. I was going to watch it. You're talking about that and the Jay-Z. So now, and obviously there's the Nas thing on Netflix as well. And obviously, as well as that, you've got music videos, although music videos are a bit more entertainment. A bit more entertainment. These documentaries allow you to actually see actually not what took place, but you actually now begin to see the scene, if that makes any sense. And it allows you into that person's life, and obviously it allows you a bit more buy-in. Just very similar, because I know you mentioned, you were talking about people beginning to splinter off as you got older, and as people were making money. You're making reference to the Jay-Z thing, and the first thing that crossed my mind in relation to this country was the C-Biz documentary, where he was talking about, as they got a lot older and everyone was making a bit of money, everyone began to pick sides, etc., and everyone went in their own different direction. But like, not only that, and I say this all the time, and I know I mentioned this to Mason. I mentioned it to Mason, I know, on the phone before, and I might have mentioned it obviously on the podcast too. As to rappers, I've got no problem with them saying what they say. Saying what they say. As individuals, you're entitled to, and what people do naturally is celebrate their wins. So you can be doing the maddest thing outside, all right, but ultimately it's a win. And as humans, I think naturally you want to, not that you want to boast. I think it even says stuff like this in the book, but like, point I'm making is you celebrate your wins as long as you know yourself, all right, and don't go overboard and don't do the madness and like, okay, nobody wants to be out here shooting anybody, because ultimately your life is in danger. That's the reason why you chose to do that. But if you said you got 10 bodies when you really got one, or you just shot at someone, bro, you don't know, you're not telling the truth. Then it becomes a problem.
Yeah, no, facts, it's real. It's real. But again, it's like, how do you define it's for, as you said, it's for the individual to kind of define the entertainment side and the realism side, isn't it? So it's up to that actual artist. Each individual artist will that's something they have to contend with. But
you raised a good point about the more you got access, and a lot more access to like knowing a bit more, knowing whether it's a rapper or anyone a bit more in depth. Even there's a last point, obviously, before I think we're ready to move on. But there's a YouTube James English guy. He does interviews, right?
Yeah.
And like figures of a certain era, like generation, gangsters and all that kind of stuff. He's brought out a new one within the last week or so. I've probably listened and watched the first 20 minutes of it, with a guy from Bricky called Quincy Faves or something like that. I can't remember his surname, but I remember hearing about this guy ages ago, because apparently he licked shots at Fed and got jail time for like 10 years or something. But like, all I've ever seen is like, I don't know if he's done music. I've seen him in music videos and stuff, and just, I don't know. I think the point I'm making is, for the first 20 minutes of this, I surprised myself, because I was so enthralled, because he starts speaking about how he grew up. And it's really interesting. I'm still at the point where he's growing up. He's only 10 years old. But what he's going into the psyche of how he was raised and what came before him and what was going on in his household is very interesting. Very, very interesting. And it's a 2-hour interview. And I'm going to commit myself to listening to that now. Because the first 20 minutes, it surprised me that actually how he came across. And I remember even my missus was in the background. She saw me watching it on YouTube. And when I paused it halfway and I said, this guy went to prison for shooting at police. She's like, what? I goes, yeah. She goes, he looks like a guy that works in finance. Like, just the way he put himself together. He's coming across really well. Not like no street man or hoodlum, nothing. And I've only watched 20 minutes, but I'd recommend probably both of you to just look into it.
I've seen it pop up on my feed still. I've seen quite a few. Well, I haven't watched loads of James English's videos, but I've seen a few of his things. So his stuff does pop up. So I'm aware of the video you're referring to. So I will get to at some point. But just moving on. It talks about the D-boy versus the 9 to 5, and I didn't go into it too much, but it's something that we can discuss briefly. And what's that?
It's important to discuss.
Yeah, no, definitely, because it's funny. I'll just watch. within the last, I think, half an hour or hour, I was watching a video, and they was talking about similar things. And even I've read a book on economics.
Yeah.
I think it might have been free economics or something like that. And they break down like what, and even he breaks it down in the book as well, like what you earn as a D-boy versus what you do as a 9 to 5. And the risk that you're taking, realistically, you might as well just do a 9 to 5. And that's facts, like actually being involved in it. Like for what you're making, don't get me wrong, you can do the whole cool thing and look cool and you're getting the money fast, but you're blowing money fast as well. So at the end of the year, when you look back and see what's in your pot, it's be like, oh, you might as well just work to 9 to 5. You'd have been much better off still. So it's that D-boy versus 9 to 5 myth that everyone kind of dismisses and thinks that, again, it goes back to the whole glamorization and the ease, what people think is ease of being on the streets. And it's not even easy. It's easier to be working a 9 to 5. You get more money. I wouldn't say, yeah, you can get more sustainable money from it, and you can live life without fear of going to jail or end up dead.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's looking back on it, it's definitely it's a waste of time, bro. It's a waste of time. You're better off doing a 9 to 5. Really, realistically, if you look at the statistics on how much people actually earn, that who gets to the top and who makes that the creme de la creme, and for the majority of people who don't, you're better off just doing the 9 to 5 from the get-go and just live your life without all the hassle and the drama still.
Yeah. Do you know what kept comes to mind? And I'll be quick, P, yeah? There's obviously, as I told you, man, UK music was my thing. As soon as that exploded, I kind of agree with that. But when Blade and Giggs released their joint mixtape time ago, maybe Hollow Meets Blade or something it was called, yeah? There's a lyric, there's a tune on there where Blade says, I ain't got no flipping peas up in Barclays. Well, I guarantee you now, yeah, Blade at the age of mid-30s, wherever he is, has peas in Barclays and Halifax and that West. Maybe back then he didn't, but guess what? As the book shows as well, your peas are almost like your cash in hand is worthless. You cannot do nothing with it. The man says, do you know how embarrassing it is when I know I've got cash, but then if I'm going to flipping buy a car, I have to take my aunt with me and put it in her name. Yeah. Like he speaks about all that. Do you get what I'm saying? Guaranteed. Blade has got peas in Barclays now. Which one of them builder societies? 100%. Do you get what I'm saying? And I think one of the points to make, because when you're young, you're impressionable, you're vulnerable, your situational circumstances can dictate your kind of what your movements and stuff are like, your peers and all of that, yeah. But I've always maintained it like if you don't have to do it, you need to be. If you don't have to do it, you just need to be big enough and bold enough and not succeeding to peer pressure. Because a couple man them at 14, I've got a couple bags in the name, and obviously you don't have anything. You don't have to. It will come. It will come eventually. You know what I'm saying? And if you get to a certain age, it's just not working. Just cut it out, man. I've seen it with people close to me. It's not working. The road life's just not for you, innit? Like, because believe it or not, and as my man mentioned in the book, to be a road man, you got to be flipping intelligent. A lot of these men in the road, they can be successful whether they have their own companies or 9 to 5. They're mad intelligent because you have to have mad wits about you. You got to know what's going on in around you. You have to have a level of intelligence to reach any kind of sustainable income where you can sustain yourself, sustain any lifestyle that you need to live, all of that kind of stuff. So just you're better off. Take away the fear, the anxiety, the pressures of the road, the fact that if you get in trouble, you're gonna have to call lawyers and next week you've got a record and mum's pain, and take that all away if you don't have to be involved. If you don't, do you know what I'm saying? If your circumstances don't dictate, you have to be involved.
Yeah. What was you gonna say there, P?
I can't remember what I was gonna say, but I do have a couple of things to say. So like, so anyway, so let me just start anyway, because I know we're talking off air about chapter 10, etc., etc. But I think a lot of what I've wrote down in chapter 10 is essentially what was your question moments ago. So like, I was going to read something very quickly, and then I want to go into what I'm going to say. So it says, you're not crazy for wanting the finer things in life. Self-esteem is one of the highest levels of needs. Second only to self-actualization. Status is one of the primary ways society categorizes people. When you're young, that's the only way we're thinking. As to, it speaks about, I forget what I'm about to read here, some of the hustling myths anyway. No, it's talked about addiction. So An addiction is composed of the following: engaging in an activity consistently, producing negative results from it, not being able to stop engaging in that activity. So we're talking about hustling, but let's say being a
It's
drug dealer.
addictive, though. It is addictive.
Yeah. So let's talk about drug dealing for, yeah, as an example, but certainly those ones who are on the lower end of the scale. And we're talking about those individuals might as well going out and get a 9 to 5. Now, my thoughts are this. There's a couple things anyway. First and foremost, there's a lot. I mean, I've been reading other books actually, quite a lot recently. So as to one of the books I'm reading, it talks about business and there being a low, what's it? Basically the entry point's easier. Being a drug dealer, the entry point's easier. You know what I mean? And also because you're living in a place or an environment where there's a lack of opportunity, you're more likely to jump into that opportunity where there's a low entry point. You can get some food very, very quickly, and then hopefully with that optimism, you feel you can actually sell it, but at the same time, your imagination will. I mean, my imagination at 35 runs wild. So imagine what I was like at 14, 15, thinking, yeah, if I grab a bit of food, I can sell a bit, get some more money. Then all of a sudden I got a key. But I mean, that's the way my imagination would have run wild. I was talking with I'll get to my friend in just a moment, but like as I was reading the book, and I hope I'm not rambling on, I was thinking of myself as an example. Like we come from parents who were immigrants who weren't born here. All right. Now, if education doesn't work for you, all right, considering your environment, more often than not, I know like adults often say this to kids, you've got more opportunities, etc., etc. But they're not thinking like that. And you have to be, and as an adult and as an educator or a teacher, you have to be quite imagine. I mean, you gotta have good imagination, but at the same time, you've actually got to show these kids what these opportunities are really about. Now, the day we're living in now, I think these kids can see these opportunities because they're seeing it on the screen as we're talking about. It's accessible, so they can actually see it. It's not about you now telling them; they can actually see it. So of course they're gonna grab the mic and they're gonna go to this acting class and boom, 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 so on and so forth. But if you've not got yourself educated, you've come from nothing, bro, it's more likely than not you're gonna look for that low entry point, which is more likely than not be drugs or other bits and bobs, and that's what leads you to getting into trouble. Where we come from, more often, like where we come from, and I'm not even claiming that we come from the dirt, all of us anyway, always being as bad as some people claim, is your future more often than not looks bleak, and you're taught to live in the present, and that's the reason why these people, they go out, they sell drugs sometimes, and they drip or drown, or they do all that nonsense because you're living in the present. You're living in the present. Get rich, die trying, ball out, splurge, all these silly little phrases. They're there for a reason.
Yeah. I mean, to reiterate on the next chapter, because we're going to go into chapter 9, where it talks about the trap, part 1, prison and death.
Yeah.
And just to go off the back of what you're saying, and just to kind of wrap up what Mace and I were saying as well, he mentions on page 153, thinking you can achieve long-term success and happiness by trapping is a trap house of the mind and an unavoidable circumstances. Then the absolute worst part that breaks down every man's the loss of his freedom. You never realize how incredible it is to have your freedom until it's taken away from you. But on the flip side, considering the mindset of you can trap my body, but you can't trap my mind, is jail a deterrent?
That's a good question. I think it can, and it can be. And the reason I say it can be, and I'm going to relate this back to when we had Swift George on, because he made a very, very good point. What he said was, because I remember he said he got a big bird, but he said he needed that, because if he got a small bird, it wouldn't have deterred him. The same way Christopher Freeman in his first prison sentence come out and was still young enough to go back on the road. In the same way in that documentary, which I'm talking about on YouTube, he done a bird from 15 to 21 come out, and his mind was still, I can make it off the road. Do you get what I'm saying? There wasn't enough of the deterrent, whether that was the number of years or whether or not that was the age at which he went inside and came out. That would said, I'm too old for this now, or B, right, I'm not doing another 8 stretch. Do you get what I'm saying? Even if you're at 16 and you do an 8 stretch 24, you're like, I can't do that again. I'm not doing that again. So I think it depends on the number of years you get, or not even years, but the time you get and the punishment, or even how your experience is in jail. Because one of my cousins went in, I think he got a year, done 6 months, but that was enough. He just didn't, he was like, nah, I'm not doing that again. That was enough. 6 months, that was enough. And nah, boomer.
No, I hear that, man.
For me, it's mad, really. So, like, I agree with everything Mason said, but is it deterrent? I mean, history. I say this all the time, and I know. I think in recent time I've gone into not a negative state, but I mean, I've been looking at things for I don't know what the phrase. Looking at things for the way it is. I think that's the phrase. And history will tell us it's not a deterrent. You go in, you learn more, you come out, and then you go back in. I'm not saying that's the case for everybody, but you know, it is and it isn't. I mean, for those individuals for which it's a cycle, those individuals more often than not believe they don't have the opportunities available for them to go on and do something more. And for those individuals who go in jail, and let's say there's 1 out of 10 of them who come out like Swift George and they start their own business, etc., is because they do have the opportunity. They are smart and intelligent enough to go on and do other things. Not to say those individuals who are selling drugs and getting bits and pieces at wholesale and selling it at mass, because obviously I know there's a level of intelligence there, but some individuals don't know how to translate that type of business into something that is legitimate. And people need to understand, because I see people on the internet sometimes talking about that transition in itself. If you can do this, you can do that. Yes, you can, but you need a level of support. I mean, Swift George said it himself. How long did it take him for him to come out of jail, for him to then do what he was doing? I mean, we spoke for I was going to say 2 hours. I'm not too sure, but we spoke for a long time, and he was talking about his story in terms of doing warehouse jobs and this, that, and the third. Bro, it's not easy. It is not easy at all. Not easy at all. But like, is it a deterrent? Yes and no. I mean, like, I put up a post today, and I was just trying to pick it up as Mason was talking. Now, I'm just gonna just say what's on my note. So, I don't know if this is a conversation people are having, but bro, prison like violates your human rights. Like, oh, it's certainly is toeing the line. We cannot protect. Yo, I mean, let's talk from experiencing either knowing people or from knowing people. Now, from my knowledge, you get your last meal about 5, and you don't eat till like 9 a.m. the next morning. And man, I talk about, yeah, I know. Tell me what's in canteen apart from crisps.
You got noodles, you got chocolates, you got tuna. There's quite a few. You can whip up a meal still. I'm not even
in your kettle.
Bro, man, do it, bro. Man,
no, but what I'm saying,
man, make Michelin meals in that kettle, boy.
No, so it's funny you say that, because Prodigy from Mobb Deep, he brought out a book based on that, actually, in terms of.
Don't even mean to jump in, but I don't know if you don't know about the podcast $1 Million Worth of Game with Wallow and Gilly the Kid. Yeah, Gilly the Kid and his cousin Wallow. He done 20 years, done a 20-year bid. And I was just watching one of his videos the other day, and he's talking about whipping up Chi-Chi in the bowl. And he's talking about whipping up like different kind of meals. And he does it in the actual video. It's kind of funny still, but man get busy in jail when it comes to all of that. Man are inventive still. But I'm not trying to promote it and be like, yeah, that's the thing to do, by not any means, but just to kind of say, yeah, I get what you're saying about the human rights and stuff, but at the same time, you speak to another man and they'll say jail is life, bro. They're trying to stay in there because, and again, I don't want to make it out like to say it's the thing to do, but at the same time, this is reality, and man know what's going on. You can make more bread in there than you can out on the road. Certain man do anyway. You know what I'm saying, like, you can get things put over, and you can make bread. Like, certain man go into jail so they can go and make bread in jail to come back out, so they're nice when they come out, which is crazy to me. That's not something I'm trying to do, would do, or even promote or condone, but that is just the nature of the beast. So not to jump on what you were saying, but I do agree with you. It's not really a deterrent to an extent. It's not. Depends on who you are as well, like, and where you are in what stage of your life you are. Because if you get nicked later on in life, and you come out later on in life, you're not going to be so convinced to start back up again. Whereas, as Mace rightly said, if you go in at a younger age and you come out and you're still young enough to do it, you'll be like, boy, I can do that again still, and let me get back to it. So it's not a fully deterrent, but I think there needs to be more support in regards to education and just the thing about having transferable skills. Because if you can build up a line, you can build up a business. It's that simple. Like, that is a business. You are building a business. If you can go and start trapping, like, from scratch, like have no customers to having the customer base, that is what every other business does. It's not any different. It's just the product is considered illegal. But yeah, going back to the actual the point of the question, I agree with you, Pete. To some degree it is, but on the whole, if we look back on history, I don't think it totally is. But then saying that, what would be a deterrent then? Like, what would be something that could be put in place that would be a deterrent to stop the youth from wanting to be D-boys or sell drugs and get involved in the street life?
All right. I think you're all right. Opportunities in short, all right. But in short, but as okay, I don't want to actually. I'm not gonna say I'm a drug dealer. All right? Let's just say, just say I decide to become a drug dealer. I have made a decision. All right, I can potentially make this amount. All right, which is a lot. So let's say X amount. I like to believe I've made that decision. I'm happy. I've made the decision that if I get caught, I'm prepared to do big time, based on the premise that I either have or I can make this money. It's a risk that they're prepared to take, and that is that's the fact. You know, whether it's 5, 10, 15, people are being given this sort of time. Some people are coming out to money, and some people unfortunately didn't make enough money, and they won't be coming out to the money, and that's the risk you take. We're living a day and a time where there's, yes, I'm not going to say there's not. There is a lot of opportunity. Now, you got a lot of people who are rappers. Let's use rappers, and not just rappers, people who work in the industry. So actual people who are musicians, people who work behind the scenes, people, whether it's the camera, this, that, and the third, business manager, people are now seeing those opportunities. And now, like, you know what? I'm not too, this road life, actually, I feel there's other opportunities. I actually cut myself up there because I was listening to Judge Assos, all right? Talking about that transition. I heard like a 2-3 minute clip, and I'll listen to the rest of it later on this evening. He was saying like at this early stage when So Solid first popped off, a lot of men were telling him, I'm not too sure, you know, that's gonna work because of this, that, and the third. But he persisted and he made it work.
You talking about PDC So Solid?
No, he was talking about both. So he's from obviously PDC, but he was talking about Mega Man at the same time. He was talking about how he not hired you're a promoter and I forget what the term is. I'm a promoter and I get you to come to my gig. I forget. Anyway.
Promoter.
Yeah. So yeah.
I remember I bought his book actually. Judge Assos' book. Street Kid or something like that.
Yeah, he's got a new one. He's got a new one out.
A new one again.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember his old book. But there was 2 things. There was a couple of points you raised. One was about making enough money or not making enough money. And there's 2 things. There's one that's real life. I saw news the other day. I saw on a news clip, and there's one that's in the book. So with Christopher Freeman, the first time he went in, he was married. He said, yeah, and he was like, yeah, like he had this thing, right? Like everyone else gets caught, but in your back, you won't. Like, yeah, I'm too smart or whatever. But everyone gets caught. But anyway, he was like, right, okay, I'm going inside. He left like 100 bags with his girl and left 12 bags with like a sibling or aunt or something like that, bruv. Like. That money, because once again, I like the way he broke down a lot of the economics in the book. He said, yeah, like 100K sounds good on paper. When she's just got a newborn, she's got rent to pay, bills to pay, and you got away for 5 years, that ain't gonna last the test of time. Next minute, the money can only compensate for so long before a woman wants to feel like, you know what I'm saying, desired, love, companionship, all the rest of it. That, do you know what I mean? After a while, she stops visiting and all the rest of it. Then your money you saved up gone. The woman that was holding you down's gone. Do you know what I mean? You got to start all over again. The other thing was there was a BBC article, news clip or something I saw the other day. One you got stopped and searched in. He was driving. His car got stopped in like somewhere in northwest London. Yeah, bro. I don't know if it was a pre-planned operation, but after they stopped him, they went to 3 linked properties with him. Imagine they found 200 bags in cash. I don't know how long he's had that. Sorry, how long he's been working for that and whether like certain parts or else. But I'm sorry, bro. Me being on the roads and if someone's one day, just one, like within an hour, is just scooping up all my. I don't know how long it would have took to earn that, but scooping up all my 200 bags and I ain't got a thing to say. I just got to eat that and do a sentence. I'm not involved. Not involved, boy. Not involved. I got to eat that loss and do a sentence.
See, and like you have. Whether it's rappers or not, but you get people talking about the L's they've taken. Now, I'm just gonna move the scenario to the left. All right. So like in me going back and forth in Barcelona and some of the things that have been on the news as to migrants crossing the channels and all that type of stuff, bro. Listen, not that it's no different. In me being in Barcelona, I talk to these individuals. These individuals are prepared to take the risk based on what they feel was on the other side. It is no different from a drug dealer. Okay, if I move this work, I might have 200 grand, boom, 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 so on and so forth. You got individuals, and I'm going to use extreme circumstances because I don't want to perpetuate, I forget the other word. I don't want to perpetuate anything. So, like some people are fleeing from conflict, and then they understand. Okay, all right, if I cross into Egypt, Morocco, boom, 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 I can go over and I can find me some work. Or give my child an opportunity. Yeah, I'm prepared to take that risk, bro. They're prepared to die. They're prepared to die. That is the same. I'm not saying it's the same risk, but it's the same. Like I equate these things. You know what I'm saying? I equate, and even with myself. Like if I use myself, I like to use myself. It's all good, well and good talking about other people, but let me use myself as an example. And I always laugh and joke about this type of stuff. Like when we're talking on the phone, bro, I'll do this homeless thing, no problem. I know it's mad, but no problem. No problem. For what my people have been through, or what I know other people are going through, like, what's homeless? Like, so I haven't even expounded on what.
Explain yourself. But that sounds.
I haven't explained myself because people just think I'm crazy. So like, I've taken. Like, I mean, I talk about this in my book anyway. So like, I've taken risks over the past 3-4 years in terms of not making a lot of money, etc., in order to upskill myself and propel myself and put myself on a platform where I can do certain bits and bobs. You think I haven't contemplated? Yeah, I might not be like just what happened if I go homeless, bro? I've given money to homeless people. I've given food to homeless people. Well, not that no one has before, but I've seen this firsthand, bro. Like, there's talking about taking L's, all right? Obviously, drug dealers. There's nothing like experience. So once you've taken a couple L's, like, bro, in order to be successful in life, you have to take L's. You have to. You have to. There's no skipping around it. It's part of the game. The game is a game. Whether you're someone who's working like a career person, or whether you're someone who does illegal activities, the game is the game. And like in being, I want to say on the ground in Barcelona, where a lot of these people go to Spain, blah blah blah. You're hearing these stories, and I'm like, bro, these my brothers and my sisters here. They're prepared to be selling. And I'll say shit on the streets, bro. I'll do this homeless thing, no problem, bro. Not that I'm comfy, not that I want to do it, but if they're prepared to be selling this stuff on the streets, and some of these people are living in poor conditions, I can never turn my nose up on the possibility or how far I'm willing to go in order for me to be successful. Hope that explains clearer what I was trying to say. I could probably explain a little bit better, but obviously, we're talking about the book itself.
So people, if you listen, if you see P on the roads doing the homeless thing, just know he's all right. He's good.
Yeah, no, I'll be all right. Don't worry about me. I'm fine.
All right. Moving on to chapter 10. Oh, did you want to say something there, miss?
No.
So 1 second. I don't even want to play down being homeless. That's another thing as well, because that's serious. But what I'm saying is, That is dead serious. But what I'm saying is, I'm prepared to do that. I've sat and calculated the risks, all that type of stuff.
Yeah,
Sorry,
but being on a serious note, it's like we're not trying to promote like or downplay that being homeless is a serious thing though. Do you know what I'm saying? Like it is. It's not unless no one wants to be homeless. Do you know what I'm saying? It's not. I know you what you're saying, P, and you're capable, and obviously you've got the mindset of being able to be strong enough to handle it. But majority of people, they're not trying to be homeless, innit? Like that's feel and then. But moving on to chapter 10, the trap part 2, addictions and dope boy Hollywood. I've noted down. I didn't really put too much notes on this one, but I did recognize addictions, and we mentioned it before. But like hustling in the trap is an addiction. Like when you're on the roads, like when you're doing what you're doing, like when you're making that fast money, it becomes addictive. You get used to it in such a way that you're always going to want to get involved, and it's easier said than done to just walk away from it. But in regards to the other additional addictions he's talking about and referring to, he speaks about drugs, smoking weed, drinking alcohol, and things of that nature. Is there anything that you guys wanted to touch on in this subject, in this chapter?
Not much, obviously. Like I was never in, like, I'm not a big drinker. I barely drink. I do like a drink, but I don't drink. Never smoked. So I although I understood it, you know, I'm not that I need to be connected to it in any shape or form, but I couldn't fall foul. Again, not to play it down, but I've not fallen foul to that. So I didn't have too much to really touch on in regards to that. But as to it being an addiction in terms of people selling drugs, yeah, I've known people who do that type of stuff. And sometimes I listen to the conversation, I'll be like, bro, I need to slap you back into reality. What you like, as to, not that that's not you, but you, and not that you know better, but it's a case of you're talking like the possibility of you not getting bagged is not there. You know what I mean? Or you're exempt from, you know, those rules or those things are exempt from yourself. So yeah, I mean,
one thing they won't get caught though. It's like it's similar to like being an MC. I don't know if this is the right analogy, but it's like when you start rapping, you're gonna think you're the best. Like no one's gonna be better than you. It's the same with like when you go on the road. You think, all right, cool. I know a bagger man's been nicked before. I know a lot of man get shot. I know a lot of people die and go jail. But I'm smarter than all of them man there. That can't happen to me. Nah, I'm way too smart for that. And you genuinely naively think like that. Like I remember I used to say to my brethren all the time, bro, I'll never go jail, bro. I'll never like, and I've never been convicted. I was on remand or whatnot. But that's a whole nother story. But I remember always perpetuating that, bro, man's never gonna go jail. Man's too smart for that, bro. Then man ended up on remand in jail and that. So it's that mindset that you have when you get into it. It's sort of like just when you get into business as well. It's like, all right, my business is gonna be successful. Right. A part of you need to have that kind of delusion to even step foot in it before you even start. It's that over cockiness, that overconfidence that you probably do need to an extent to do anything to some extent. Do you know what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I mean, like, it's mad. Like, maybe it's the other book I'm currently reading. So we're talking about, like, let's be honest. To be a drug dealer, there's a low barrier to entry. You don't need a lot of money. Just grab a bit, and all of a sudden you're selling. All of a sudden you're the next Pablo Escobar. You got a bit. All right. Now, like, we've all been approached by a network marketer, whether it's as to I don't want to say the brands, so I don't want to disrespect anybody. But you know, I'll come with me, and all you come to this meeting, and then boom, 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 so on and so forth. So what I'm saying, like, I've almost forgot what I'm saying, but they've got that. Drug dealers have got that type of exuberance. You know what I mean? Low entry, all right. Yes, I'm gonna hit the jackpot in 6 to 12 months' time. I'm gonna have these bags.
Mm.
No, it's sometimes to the point now when I'm doing something or when I've got a project, I allow my imagination to run wild. I think it's cool. That is good for that to happen. But I also try to have these almost out of body experiences where it's like someone on my shoulder telling me, bro, chill out. This road is very long. There's gonna be some meanders, some bumps, this, that, and the third. Understand the pitfalls, so when they do come, you know what I mean. It's not a massive surprise. You know what I'm saying? But I'm at an age where when shit happens, I'm like, you know what? I should have seen that coming. You know what I mean?
Mm. What about you, Mace? You got anything to add to that?
Not mine. No. What I would say, I can't remember if it's chapter 10 where, because I know he talks about a lot of addictions. He talks about also the addiction to sex and stuff as well in that chapter. I can't remember.
Yeah, that comes in the next one.
Next chapter, love.
Next one, right? Fair enough.